All right, we're back. We are COMP397 web game programming in the winter 2018 semester. I think it's lesson 9. Maybe I'm wrong. And it's or week 9, if you will, at Centennial. And we're talking about today bullet firing and advanced GitHub. It's also Easter weekend, so this was kind of supposed to be a special topics weekend, just in case some people didn't show up. But people asked me to do bullet firing in the first class, so I kind of decided to do bullet firing for you guys. Why are we doing bullet firing? Because even though it's late in the day, like it's a couple weeks out from your beta release, right? The reason why is because we want to handle bullet pools today. I also want to talk about some performance counter. That's what I want to add in there, as well as GitHub issues and how to track issues on GitHub and so on, which is a very cool tool. All right, without further ado, let's get going. So first thing is the project. Like you were just saying, I have this project that I'm working on. Earlier today, I worked on a project called G, and I'm going to move it to H, right? Now, typically, this is not good, right? Typically, what I would do is, instead of doing this, so I'm just going to kind of go to F, duplicate F, and make it H. So duplicate. And I'll just call this H. Typically, what I would do is I would have branches for all this stuff, right? Get branches. But to make it easier, I've got all these different copies, so we can always go back, and I have a clean copy of what's running. So that's the one thing. So I wouldn't do it this way in the real world. Also, notice that in H, which is from F, you guys will be the H group today. What I want to do is I want to kind of go CD space and go here. And I don't want to kill my Git repository like normal for today. I want to show you that we can keep it, right? So normally I just go rm minus rf, or you just right-click and delete your Git repository when you start this off. But today, I'm going to say git remote. If you look at the remote, I have a remote called origin. It's pointing to my F branch, if you will. I want to go to my H branch, which is where we're at right now, right? So I'm going to just kill the remote. I'm going to say git remote, remove origin. And when I go get remote again, you can see that there's no more remotes listed. No more remotes. So there's nothing I'm pointing to anymore. Still got my local repository, but my remote branch is gone. Okay. What I want to do now is go up online and go to GitHub. And I want to make a new one of these. So instead of calling it G, I'm going to call it H. My H branch. And I want to take these last 2 lines here, just like I normally do, copy them, and go back here and paste them and enter. And what this is going to do, it's going to keep my last commit from my previous branch. This is a way of you guys doing it too, and being safe, and creating a brand new Git repository that includes my old commits. So if I was to go here and check, you can see that I've got 9 commits starting off. But I just created this thing for you guys. So this is the one I'm starting off with, guys. So please download this one to start off. So this is just another way of doing it. So what am I going to do today? Before I start off, I want your help, okay? You guys are smart guys, the 4 of you. There's only 4 of you. Maybe, can I get you guys to move up a little bit? Because you guys are way over there, and there's lots of room over here. It'd be nice if I saw your faces a little bit, right? People who are not here, again, for those people who are celebrating Easter, happy Easter. For those people who are off because of the Easter weekend, for whatever reason, seeing friends and family, enjoy your time. I'm still recording. Just make sure we cover the things we need to cover. All right, so things to do. So GitHub not only keeps track of your commits, so if I go to commits, but it also keeps track of something called issues. Issues could be different kinds of things. You could use issues to track bugs. You could use issues to track tasks, right? It does. If you use Jira, it's a little better. But this is the poor man's Jira, okay? Let's use the poor man's Jira so you know how it is. This is GitHub. It's pretty good, but it does certain things well and certain things not so good. So if you go to new issue, I want to start talking about what I want, right? But let's go back actually. First, let's talk about this milestone. Milestones are like things I want to add in, okay? So imagine I got this new task. Imagine today we have a sprint, a micro sprint that we're doing today, okay? And today's sprint, or the task we're doing, we're handling, is we want users to be able to fire bullets. Okay, so I can make a new milestone, and the milestone is going to say, as a user, I should be able to fire bullets when I press the spacebar. Right? That's the task or feature that I want to add. I want to make the due date today, so I can kind of say it's today's date, right? And I can describe that. The user should be able to fire bullets when the spacebar is pressed. Details, right? Only 10 bullets or bullets should fire at a rate of 1 bullet every 10 frames. Okay, so we don't want the bullets to be unlimited bullets. Bullets should be created in a bullet pool so that they are recycled. And an example would be maximum 50 bullets ever, right? And we can keep going down here. So this is a description of the milestone that we want to make for our project. We're going to create this new milestone. So this is it. So as a user, I should be able to fire bullets when I press the spacebar. Yay! And some details. Now what I want to do is I'm going to create some issues. Issues are like tasks or things that I need to do. So I'm going to go back to issues and make a new issue, right? And the first issue I want to say is need to create a bullet class. Okay, I need to create a bullet class. No bullet class, I can't have bullets, right? So now what I can do is I can create a label, and now my labels have some things I don't want. What I want to do is actually, I want to go to labels. Let me just go to labels themselves. So before I do this, let's make a label. Right now we have enhancement, bug, these are a bunch of labels. Let's modify my enhancement, right? So it says feature. So feature, or I'll say new feature. There we go. And I'll change my color. I want to change my color to like green. So I like that color, save changes. Let's make another one. So I want to make some new labels, and I'll tell you what the labels are in a second. Another label would be the priority for my new features, right? And a dependency. So let's say we'll call this dependency, and we'll make the color into some kind of yellow color, right? This issue, or this is a dependency for another feature. A label. Let's make another one, a new label. We'll call this high priority. Right, so we'll call this high priority task, right? And we'll make this high priority red, this red color. We'll make a medium priority, right? Medium priority task. And we'll just change the color to this color, yellow. And the last one, we'll make a low priority. Low priority task. Okay, so I kind of labeled them up. Great, I'll keep this weird label here. Actually, maybe make a purple. Kind of purple color. Okay, cool. So we've got these labels I just added in: dependency, high priority, and new feature. And now let's go back and do my issue. So I said, like I said before, I want to make a new issue, which I need to build a new bullet class. That's what I wanted. And what I want to do is I want to make it so that it is a new feature, right? So here's my new feature. I also want to make it so that, well, it's kind of high priority, right? I can't do bullets without a bullet class. So high priority, okay? And click submit new issue. All right, so this is my first issue. All right, what else? I need a bullet asset. Can't do a bullet without a bullet asset, right? So new issue, need bullet asset for bullet class. That means it's dependency. So label, we'll make it a dependency, and we'll make it again, high priority, because without a bullet asset, we can't see bullets. Okay. We can also peg the milestone. I don't know if I did that last time. So let's go back to issues, and you can go back to need a bullet class, and I think I should peg the milestone. Go back to that. Okay, so there we go. We got those two issues. So two issues right now are up, need bullet asset for bullet class, need to create a bullet class. All right, notice that this is issue number 1, this is issue number 2. Let's keep going. What else do we need for this thing to work? So bullet class, I need a bullet. I need to make a bullet sound, right? So need bullet sound asset for bullet class. If I didn't have one, it still would fire, but it'd be nice to have. Therefore, it's a medium priority asset. Okay, so again, labels, I'm going to say it's a dependency, and it's definitely a medium priority. Okay, cool. And let's tack it onto that milestone. Fantastic. All right, and then submit. So we got those 3. Okay, so now that we have this, we need to update. We need some kind of bullet manager to keep track of all my bullets, right? Not really a priority, maybe, but actually turned out to be a priority. And last class, we couldn't even do bullets without the bullet manager for a reason. So let's make that, knowing that that's the case, we'll make a new thing. We'll say this is bullet manager, need bullet manager to keep track of and update bullets, bullet positions. I'll say bullets. This is important. So this is it's kind of a dependency, but it's definitely high priority. All right, high priority. And we'll definitely track it to our submit. So new bullet manager. Okay, so we got 4 issues. Let's keep going. So I'm firing the bullet, makes a sound, it goes off. I need to update my collision manager so that it hits something, right? So new issue, update collision manager so that it knows about bullets, right? Label, this is definitely a new feature because without bullets, without the dependency knowing this, it won't do collisions, right? And it's definitely a high priority because without that, we don't have any effect from the bullets. Bullets fire, but nothing happens. Who cares, right? Submit new issue. And we also have a target. We need a target. So need a target for the bullet hit. So enemy class, right? So this is kind of a new feature. So again, I mean, if we can still fire the bullet, but there would not be no enemy, we can still do it. We just couldn't test it. So this would be kind of a medium priority, and it's definitely a new feature. Submit. It's a new object in my scene. One thing was we didn't peg the milestone. And if you forget to do that, you can always go back here, and you can see what kind of milestone. This one doesn't have a milestone. So we can go back and go milestone. And I'll show you what the milestone is in a second. We got 6 issues, so okay, we have a target, we need an asset for it. So new issue, need asset for enemy class. This is a dependency, and this is a medium priority. Okay, and it's definitely on this, submit new issue. So I've got my assets. Okay, cool. So now we need a, when the enemy gets hit, we need a sound, and we need an explosion. So need a sound asset for enemy hit sound, enemy hit, let's say. This is a dependency, right? Well, actually, really it's a new feature because it's not really depending on anything, right? So that is a new feature and it's low priority. If I don't hit, if I don't make a sound, it's not that great. You might argue that it's a medium priority because we never have, right? But it's okay. And let's go a medium milestone to this. If you're setting all these things up, let's submit. That's the hit sound, and we also need an explosion. We need an explosion as what we call it class to manage small explosions. Right? Again, this should be a new feature. So again, labels, new feature, right? And also it's low priority because if we don't have it, it still works. It's just nice to have. And it's back to this milestone. And we can also add another issue, which is once we have the explosion class, we need the explosion asset. We need explosion, small explosion asset, small explosion assets. Because it is not a thing, we would make this a dependency because the class needs it, and it's low priority again because the other one is, and it's definitely a milestone. You guys get the idea. We're making our task list of all the things we need to do, right? We added more here than last time. So small explosion, class, enemy hit, right? This could be the explosion sound. You can even put that in there, updates. Maybe use explosion sounds, right? Comment, you have the comment in there, right? And now, when we go to issues, we can see milestones. There's one milestone, right? We have one open milestones, and there's a bunch of issues, 10 open issues that are connected to the milestone, okay? So let's do the first one. So if I go to the issue, if you look down here, you can see that there's a bunch of issues, right? We want to choose the one that's the highest priority. Now, we've made these high priority, low priority. And by the way, you can go into as much detail here as you want. If you really want to go into the class, you can make that more of a user story that has other tasks. Like, for example, as a user, I should be able to do this. And then the task would be make a class. And the class would have these methods. And then these other issues would be connected to the methods and so on. It's up to you. But for us, we're keeping it very high level here. We're saying create a bullet class. That probably is one of the first things we should do, right? But without the bullet, right, or the sound, or any of these other assets, we're going to have some problems. So might as well get them now. Get all the assets first. Get them all done. Even though some of them are low priority, because I'm already getting assets and it's a kind of a high priority dependency, I don't want to change that sprite sheet again. So I'm going to get them all. That's the first thing I'm going to do. So let's go back to our files. So notice that right now I'm looking at H, just to make sure that you guys know that. And if I look at some of my files, here is my assets. Here are my assets. I have my sprite sheet right here. And I want to kick it off. Here's my sprite sheet. And remember last week or the week before, last week was the exam, I had new assets that I had kind of put together. And what I want to do here is, I'm using Texture Packer again. What I want to do here, move this over here. We can see both. I'm broadcasting. What I want some assets, right? So I want to do, I don't need big explosion. I do need some kind of enemy asset that we talked about. So here is my enemy, right? And there's also something called Oh, did I move it? I totally moved it. Okay, it's fine. I'll use different asset this time around. Enemy 1, 2, 3. There we go. It's a big asset actually. So here's my assets. Enemy 1, 2, 3. I'll pull these over, right? Okay, so these are the enemies that I want. Now, let me undo that change. Let me just undo those things for a second. Nice plane, but first of all, before we do this, and I know what I did last time. I messed up your thing, your assets, my friends. Is inside my COMP397, which is not here. It's on my desktop in my COMP397 inside this, right? My new assets. What I want to do is inside my images, I want to copy. I think I moved them before. So I definitely want to get this big enemy sound, big enemy. So I think I like it more, right? Copy and then paste. And I also had some other stuff like a bullet, which I don't see here because by accident, I think what I did was I actually moved them into my other file, which was G. I'm pretty sure that's what I did. So yeah, here's small explosion. And here's, I also use something called blue enemy. I'm not going to use blue enemy this time because I thought it was too small when I first saw it, but I'm definitely going to use bullets. And I'm just going to copy this back so I have a complete list of stuff. Just a moment. This is this morning's craziness. So copy and go back to that new assets thing. It is, and paste. And now what I want to do is in images, and this is in my Mail Pilot D or G, I want to grab those assets, so bullets. So I already have my enemy in here. Here's my enemy. I want to grab bullet, and I also want to grab small explosion. Here's my small explosion. It's going to be a slightly different explosion. And I copy them and paste them. Copy and paste, right? With my new assets. And I know I also did some other mess up. I also moved the sound. Pretty sure I did that. So I moved some audio for the bullet sound. That shouldn't be right. That's going to be put in the right place this time. And I might as well move that back. Oops. Move that back to my assets just in case we need them for next time. Here. So here we go. Okay, so I've got everything moved over, but now I have to use Texture Packer to pull it in, right? Now again, you may not be using Texture Packer, and that's perfectly fine, right? However, I think what you need to think about is what it saves you. And I think it saved me a lot of times in terms of what I can do. So let us kill this one. And let me save this one. And let's pull up the other one. So this is the texture packer I want. Yay, no bullets. And I want to pull up my stuff from Mail Pilot, which is here, images. And I have my bullet image as well as my enemy. I want to pull this in there and my small explosion. These are the new assets I'm pulling right now. So pull them in. If you notice what happens, I got these big things happening here, these big planes. This is something different than I had from my other class. That's fine. But let's test out what these explosions are going to do. So I have these three planes, 1, 2, 3. And I can test out the animation preview. So you can see that the propellers are moving, right? I think they're moving probably too slow. Let's move this to about 10 frames per second. Even 15 frames per second might be the right amount. Yeah, that's about right. That looks about right. The propellers are moving. You can see that they're moving. 15 frames per second for the plane. For the small explosion, I have different kinds of explosions I want to use. Here's my small explosion, as you can see. And I can do the same thing. I can go my animation preview. That's pretty fast. Let's make it something like 10. This needs 10 frames per second. So it rolls up. And then, now the plane is pretty big, right? But small explosions should be able to damage it. Maybe it can take more than one hit, right? You never know. This plane looks like a bigger plane, right? Than yours, actually. All right, cool. So I got this small explosion is like 10 frames. The other one is 15 frames. So I've got this stuff. I got to make sure where it's going. So make sure that this is correct, right? So it's going to go into mail pilot H. This is really important because if it goes in the wrong place, that's wrong. I'm going to save my project and then publish. And what this is going to do is give me my new sprite sheet. Okay. All right. So now I can go back into my project view. So I'm going to pull up Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to drag in my new project, my new version of my project, which is this H. And then I'll put this up online for you guys. All right, so you have everything. All right, so here's my new stuff, right? And what I did with this, you see that I have all these assets, these new image assets, like enemy and so on. And I can do a commit right now because I added the asset, but it's not physically in the game, right? So I could do a micro commit, but I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to do like a commit that adds the assets into the game itself. And the way that works is if I go to sprites, I have this new sprite sheet, right? And so that's one. And I also have inside my scripts, inside my core game.ts, right? I have this one. So I want to replace this with the other one. So I'm going to do a split screen here. And for this one, I'm going to look at this, my texture atlas. I'm going to just so that you guys can see what's happening. You can see that this one is going to be different than this one. This is the new one, right? And I want to replace my frames first. This is my frames from my new texture atlas here with the ones I already have. Oops, up to here. And now they're the same. That's the first step. Next, bullet. I don't need more than 1 frame for bullet. Cloud. I only need 1 frame for cloud. Coin. Okay, coin. I got all these. So it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are correct for coin. I'm not going to modify this, right? So I might as well just grab coin and replace it because it's the exact same numbers, right? With these ones, right? Because coin and cloud, are they different? Hold on. They are different. Sorry, they are. Because it moved down one. So I'm going to go to coin and do one of these. And go with coin, not 0, 1, but coin. I need frames, but I need a bunch of frames from about 2 to 11, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 frames. And just to confirm that, 10 frames, right? And then I need another property called speed, which you'd like to see on the right, which is 0.33. That's the coin. Enemy, 1, 2, 3. That also needs, it's a little bit of an enemy animation, 12, 13, and 14. Remember we talked about the plane moving around, the enemy plane. I have this speed, which is 0.25. It's 15 frames out of 60. That's 25%, so 0.25. And the explosion we already had before, but we're going to just copy the details. So 15 to 21 for the explosion. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and oops, 21. And we're going to put this on this side, and we'll do this. So speed. We already have the explosion. We can actually look at it. 0.16 is what we chose. 0.16. Explosion. Island doesn't change. Plane, that does change. 23, 24, and 25. Right? 3, 24, 25. Plain flash is all this. This is where I made a mistake last time. So plain flash isn't 2 frames. It's like a bunch of frames, right? So we're going to go do one of these. Plain flash. You see what it's going to do? It's going to go 26, 27, right? 26, 27. It's going to keep on repeating. 26, 27, because you can do that as many times as you want. So 3 repeats, and I think I go back to 26, 27, 26, 27, 26, 27, and then 0.8 for the time frame. Oops. And speed is equal to 0.08. And let's move these down, and this down, and this across. Just to make sure I didn't mess up, because I might have messed up. That looks good. Restart button staying the same, right? Restart button staying the same. So that's not moving. Small explosion is new, so 29 to 34. 29 to 34. 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, and 34. And again, just like we did before, I put this down here and create a speed for it, which is, we said, was 1 out of 6, 10 out of 60 frames, which is roughly 0.16. All right, so that is the animation. We've kind of figured that out. And we're going to just take all these things, which is kind of like the manifest or the map of all my sprite sheet. Come up here before the comma, copy this, and replace what we have here. Take all this and replace all this. Right? This replaces everything. Did we mess up? We did. I didn't take this part somehow. Copy paste errors. Okay, let's try that again. Wow, did I ever mess up? So, okay, so let's try that like this. That should fix it. All right, so let's make sure it looks the same. It does. Now, otherwise, you're gonna have to do this by hand, guys. I mean, if you don't have the texture packer, what it does is it helps you reduce this noise. This is a lot of extra, calculations by hand. You don't have to do it. All right, so that's done, but we should test it and make sure that there's nothing that's messed up in our game before we accept our issue. So I'm gonna go here, and these are all the things I changed. I'm gonna stage all them, and that's fine. I'm gonna say I added assets to project. And this should closes, and going back to our thing, we added assets for the dependency, so a new asset for the bullet, so number 2. A new asset for the sound asset. Did we add a sound asset yet? I don't think we did, so definitely number 2. No bullet manager for number 3. So number 2, number 7, and number 10. Number 2, 7, and 10. So closes number 2, closes number 7, closes number 10. I'm going to click this plus, and then from here, I'm going to push this up. And if you look up online now, right? So 2, 7, and 10 we said, right? If I refresh, you're going to see there's only 7 open issues. What's happened is when I said 2, 7, and 10, it referred to these issues and closed them off automatically, right? So now when you look at my milestones, so if I look at milestones, you can see that I'm 30% complete for this milestone. Out of 100%, I completed 30% of it. So I closed down 3 of my issues. So again, a really cool way of tracking issues using GitHub. All right, we should test it though. Like we said, maybe there's going to be a bug. So something that I did wrong, who knows? I did a lot of copy pasting. And I'm just going to test it here by going to this and saying something like light-server, which should test everything. Whoa, that was weird. And let's make sure that, one more thing. Let's make sure that when I go to this, I also go Command-Shift-B, right? So we can do a watch task. And that's one thing I never saw. When I think I did this thing, oh yeah, good, it's fixed. Let's check this out. So we'll play it. This is good. Does everything we normally do. And let's just die now. Okay, this is good. So this is the first thing we check, right? Check to see if everything works. Great. Fantastic. So we did all that stuff. These are all the changes we made, right? And you can see that I added, when I did this, I just compiled. That's what this all is. So I'm not going to upload this yet. I will, though, in a second. Okay, cool. So I've got that one. And these are some minor changes. But one of the things that, that I noticed in my core game.ts, right, is that I never added in the other things. I didn't add in the sound, right? And remember, because that was a low priority, I left it out. And I don't recommend you put anything in here until you need it. Okay? Wasn't required right now. Okay, next, let's look at our task list. So we got our task list here, and we can see that in the issues, we have some other high priority items. We have this class, and we have some kind of bullet manager and some collision manager updates. We're going to do the bullet class now, and this is going to take most of our time. Okay, now I'm going to need your help to help me do this. So, going back to this, inside of our objects, we're going to make a new object called bullet. A new file. Here's our bullet class. My bullet class is going to be a game object. So module objects and export class bullet, right? Which extends objects.gameObject. Now this is a big bullet because it has all the stuff from the game object, right? And you might decide not to do it. You can make it a sprite as well. I'm not going to do that here. I'm just going to make it a game object. So it has a bunch of other stuff. I don't have to recode. Okay? That's this part. And then, of course, like we normally do, I'm going to set my private instance variables as a coding style. I'm going to do some public properties, maybe, probably not. Some constructors, maybe more than one constructor. I'm also going to talk about private methods and public methods. Those are the things I'm going to have there, right? And just like we've done before, I'm going to set up my constructor first. So my constructor would look something like this, right? It's going to call the super constructor and pass in the name of my, my bullet, which is, I believe, bullet. To confirm that, you can always go back to your core, go back to your game.ts and see what we called it. You can see that it's called bullet. That's what that is. Okay? That's this so far. And then we need some public methods. And you know what? I'm going to go to my game object superclass and just steal those because it already has some empty methods here that I'm just going to kind of copy all of them. I'm going to need all of them for this one, as we've learned earlier. And I'm going to paste them in. So these are all the stubs of all the methods we need. We'll talk about all this in a second. So we're after in our constructor, we're going to call this .start. That's going to do it for sure, right? In our start method, we're going to define some speed for the bullet. And for now, we're going to make it -10. So we're going to say that this ._dx is going to be 0. So it's not going to move left and right. It's only going to move up, right? And this .dy is going to be equal to a value of -10. -10 means it's going to move up the screen 10 pixels. Now, that's pretty slow, but I want to see the bullet, okay? And we can change the rate of the bullet fire later. That's the first thing. And so the bullet is going to start off, and every frame it's going to move 10 pixels. So that in my move function, then, I'm going to say that this .y is plus equal to this ._dy, which is going to move the bullet up. Okay, that's what the main move is going to do. In my update function, I definitely want to call the move function, right, which is going to move every frame. And when it leaves the screen, I'm going to check the checkbounds, right? I'm going to say that if the bullet this dot y is less than or equal to a negative value of this dot height, right? So if it's off screen, leaves the screen with the whole height, then I want to reset. I want to this dot reset, okay? And we don't know what that reset value is right now. We just know it's going to reset. So I need to check bounds every frame too. So I'm going to say something like this dot check bounds. Okay, so we almost used all of them so far. Move, check bounds, just the reset we've left in. Any comments on this one? Yes. Got a bullet, very simple bullet, and all it does is it moves up the screen right now. When it's instantiated, it moves up the screen. Okay? I'm going to add my bullet to the project. So I'm going to go to index. And in my index, I'm going to go down in here, and where it says my objects, my plane should know about my bullet. So it should be before my plane right here. Because my plane is going to be there, and it's going to call my bullet to be fired. We'll call this bullet.js. And similarly, inside of our reference file, I'll put that above the plane as well. So here's my plane class, and I'll call my bullet class before my plane class, because I should know about it. Yay, cool. My bullet class has been created, but not tested. I could say that it closes off an issue, but I haven't tested it. And this is where we have a problem with the issue thing. I can put it in, and I can put it in as a, if it doesn't work, I can put a bug in. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to add it in saying, hey, my bullet class is done. I made it. It's not completed because my reset function isn't correct, but it's done. So I'm going to go into it and go over here, add all this stuff, and say added bullet class, right? Version 1. And I'll say closes number, and if I go back to this, number 1, right? Close number 1. Push. And if I refresh, you see that number 1 and 1 is good. Right? Now that's 4 closes to 40% done. All right, now let's make it so that it moves. Uh-oh. What we said, we have to modify the keyboard. Let's modify the keyboard, then I'll just jump. We have to make it so it doesn't say jump, it says fire. Right? So if you have a new issue you can think about, so let's add that in. So let's say modify a keyboard manager to include a fire context instead of jump when spacebar is pressed. Okay, that's what that is. So what is this? It's kind of a modification. I would say it's a new feature. That doesn't exist before. It's a new feature. Definitely high priority because I can't do without it. And it's definitely going to be part of my milestone. Submit. I'm going to do this next because I forgot about it. So this is issue number 11 that I'm going to do. And so what is that? That means that inside my keyboard manager class, so if I look at my keyboard manager, right now what it does is it keeps track of all my my events, right? And I have this move left, move right, my right arrow, my space does jump. There's no jump. I'm going to rename this thing. That's all I'm doing. I'm renaming the symbol from jump to fire, right? That's all I'm doing. Save. That's done. Okay? And the reason why is because so that way it's a space key, but I want to make sure that this fire is working and it's contextual. So it's a minor issue, but I wanted to make it high priority because I wanted to get it done. So now that's done, so I'm going to close off. So again, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to do this. Oops. Let's say modified keyboard manager closes number 11. Okay, and then do all these, this, and push. And again, if you go back to GitHub and refresh, you can see that that one will be closed. Okay. All right, so we modified that, and that's really cool. But now what we have to do is the next one, which is, so I don't need this yet. It's kind of medium dependency, but this one is higher, manage bullets, and I need my collision manager. So why do I need to manage bullets? Well, because they're going to be fired from my my plane class. Wait, we forgot to say that in my plane class is where my bullet firing is going to take place. So I have to modify my plane class in order to allow the plane to fire bullets. So that's a high priority, or else you can't do it. Modify plane class to allow or enable, we'll say enable bullet firing. Okay. So again, we'll make this a new feature because we can't do without this one. And we'll also make it high priority. This has to be done right away. Oop. And we forgot to put the other stuff onto it. Let's add in an issue, a milestone, which is this milestone. What we do is with milestones and issues, we keep track of our project. That's all we're doing here. So you can see now when I go back to my milestones, you can see that I'm 41% complete. 7 open issues, 5 closed issues. And so you can track it. So if some member is working on this feature, you can actually track how this feature that they're working on is complete on the fly, like as you do stuff with GitHub. And it's got a GitHub integration, which is really cool. All right, so that's cool. I want to do that. That's number 12, and I need to that's pretty important. So let's go do that now. So in my plane class, here's my plane class. And I want to modify this to fire bullets. Okay, so that means I need some kind of bullet fire capability. I don't have that method here. But let's do that. Let's make a bullet fire method. So start, here's my update, here's my reset, here's my move, and here's my check bounds. Let's say way at the bottom here, I'm going to make a new public bullet fire method. You might want to make this private, and your game, I'm making it public to make it easy. So the bullet fire method is going to be something that I check every frame. So it's going to be called inside my update function. So this dot bullet fire. Okay. Again, it doesn't matter where you put it in terms of your location in the update method, but it's going to update the bullet. It's going to check to see. And just like it does here, manage.game.keyboardmanager.move left, I'm going to change the same, I'm going to check the same thing when it comes to bullet fire. So really what I want to say is this. First of all, I can only fire bullets if I'm alive. And I know I'm alive right now in my game when my alpha is 1. When my alpha is 0, and when my plane flash was going, that means I'm not alive. I'm kind of in a half-dead state, right? I'm in invulnerability frames, high frames, right? So what I want to do is kind of do something like if, this dot alpha is equal to 1. So if it's like fully opaque, I'm alive. So check if plane is alive. That's what that is. And if I am alive, then what I want to do is I want to say something like this: managers.keyboard. And what I want to check here is the key that I'm pressing. So my keyboard manager spacebar, right, is what I want to say it's pressed. Like I did here, game keyboard manager. I'll be okay. Managers.game game.keyboard manager.fire. See, if the fire is pressed, that's the space bar, right? If that's true, okay. And I only want to fire every 10 frames. So in order for me to fire, I want to kind of say something like, and I don't know, something like ticker, as an example, %10 is equal to 0. And what that means is I want to keep track of how many frames, as an example, I've fired, right? How many frames was when I fired my ticker, whatever that is, right? And I want to count. I want to say, well, this divided by 10 somehow is equal to 0. There's every 10 frames. So what is ticker? I have to kind of get it. So up here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say something like, well, let ticker, which is a number, equal to a create.ticker.getTicks. What that getTicks is the number of frames that have elapsed since I started the game, right? So I want to do this for sure, but I want to do this here because that'll always do it, and that's going to be pretty intensive. I want to do it kind of here when my alpha is, when I'm ready to fire and my alpha is 1, right? I want to get ticks. I want to say my ticker get ticks. And then if my ticker, so both I'm pressing fire and my ticker divided by 10 is equal to 0. So it's like an, 1, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 frames. Then I can fire my bullets. Okay, now this is a problem. The problem is that I'm only firing on those even frames, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. But what if I press the button when it's frame 11? Then I gotta wait, it won't fire right away, right? So it's almost like I gotta get the ticker, subtract the number of elapsed frames to create my current frame, right? And then count. Does that make sense? So if my current, well, you don't know what I'm saying, right? Okay. Well, do it first, and then we'll see what I'm talking about later. Okay. So what this does is says, well, if my keyboard is pressed, my spacebar is pressed, and the number of frames that have elapsed divided by 10 is equal to 0. That means every 10 frames. So if I had 130 frames elapsed from the first moment I started my game, right? 130 frames, then that's okay to fire. But if it was 131, on the 131st frame, I couldn't fire until 120 went by. Oh, no, sorry, 140. And then 150, then 160, then 170, all the way up. So it limits how many bullets I can fire at the same time, which is as per our requirement, right? So when this happens, I want to call the bullet, this is bullet firing. I want to kind of make here's my pseudocode. I want to call a bullet into beam. I'm not going to say instantiate here because that's not really what we're going to be doing. We're not going to instantiate new bullets. That's what this is going to do. So as soon as I press my spacebar, it's going to fire the bullet. And just to check this, I'm going to do a console.log that says bullet fired. Okay? To see that my class would work. As soon as I press the spacebar, and I only want 1 every 10 frames. Okay? I'm going to check for that every frame, though. So every frame, I'm checking to see if the bullet gets fired. Okay? Does that make sense? Let's run this thing and see if it works. So I'm going back. I'm going to here. I press the start button. Right? And one more thing. Let's just, because there's a lot of clouds flying around, what I want to do is just for now, I want to disable all the clouds in my scene so I can play and test. Right? So down in my play scene, I'm going to change the cloud number to 0. Right? So there's no more clouds for now. So I can play and just play. And start. So now if I look at my console, here's my console. Okay, I got to fix this problem. If I press the space bar here, I can fire bullet fire. So you can see that there's bullet firing every time I press the button. So 26, 27, 30, that's a lot of bullets. And that shouldn't be that fast. Look. So that's not really working. Any comments on that? Look, as I'm pressing the button, right, it says that bullet fired. That shouldn't be the case. It's like I'm firing every frame or so. Or it looks like it. And let's check that. So if I go back to my plane, and let's check my logic, right? I have to be alive. I need to get ticks, right? If my manager.keyboard.fire is true, that means if I press my space bar and the ticker divided by 10 is equal to 0, then I can make this console. I can't really tell if this is true because I haven't seen bullets fire yet. Maybe my bullets would fire faster if I wasn't doing that. But it seems that this function is working. All right, so this is one part of what I need to do. However, here's my challenge. If I instantiate a bullet here, right here, right? First of all, this bullet that I'm going to make, how would I update it? That means I'd have to create a bullet or maybe make a bullet array here inside my plane. When I make a bullet array in my plane, I need to update it every frame. I need to update my bullet array here, like update bullets. And it doesn't make sense that the plane would have to update the bullets. I mean, I could do this, but it makes far more sense for there to be a bullet manager to update the bullets. Something to update the bullets. Just like we have a cloud manager to update the clouds. I want a bullet manager to update the bullets, right? I want it to be separate from the plane. When I fire a bullet, I don't want to keep track of the bullet. I want it to go by itself, right? I want to have access to that bullet wherever it is in my scene, which means it has to be part of a manager class. So I need to make this other class. And this is why I said to you, yeah, we can fire bullets. I have my bullet class, but I haven't really tested it. And I can't test it properly until I make my bullet manager. They kind of go hand in hand, these two things. So I'm going to go back to my managers, and I'm going to go right click, and I'm make a new object called bullet. This is my bullet manager, right? My bullet manager. And it's going to be modules or module managers. And I'm going to say export class bullet. I'm not going to make this class a static class. I'm going to instantiate it for a reason, right? Here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, here's my private instance variables, my public properties, if anything, public properties, my constructors. Again, we might turn this into a static class later on. Private methods, and then public methods. Okay, that's what we have here in my constructor of my bullet manager. Here's my constructor. For now, it's going to be the empty constructor. I don't know. I'm not extending any class. It's a brand new class. What I do need is a public property that I'm going to share called bullets. It's going to be called bullets. And it's going to be of type objects.bullet array. Right? I'll make a bullet array. Okay. Now it's not unfortunately for now, it's not created. I need to create that in a public method called start. Wait, type Tom, type. There we go. I'm going to call my start method inside my constructor, like we normally do. And in my start method, what I'm going to do is something like this. I'm going to say that I'm going to create my bullets. So I'm going to instantiate my bullets. So this is create the bullet container, right? So I'm going to say this dot bullets is equal to a new array of type objects.bullet, right? That is a syntax I need to create new bullets. It's the exact same syntax, by the way, for Java. You know, Java, same syntax, identical, right? And then what I want to do is I want to build my bullets. So build bullet array. Because even though I made this, it's just a container. It's empty, right? I need to add bullets to the array. So again, this could be a private method. So let's say build bullet pool or bullet array. Which is really, I'll make this void. I did it slightly different this time than the earlier class. And what I want to do here is I want to do it for some bullet counts. We'll make a private instance variable called bullet counts, right? Which is of type number, which I'm going to set up in my start method. Set the default bullet count. So this dot underscore bullet count is equal to 50. We'll say 50 bullets. And 50 bullets forever. I'm never going to have more than 50 bullets, right? And then what I'm going to say in my bullet array, so we're going to call this private method, this dot underscore build bullet pool, right? In my bullet array here, we're going to say for, we're going to make a for loop, and we're going to say for count, where count is less than this dot underscore bullet count. Okay. And what I want to do is I want to change my bullets. So this dot bullets count is equal to a new objects dot bullet. Pretty straightforward, right? So I'm making new bullets, and I add it to the array, right? So I'm building my bullets. I also want to call the bullet reset method. So what I want to do is take these bullets and put them off screen somewhere. Minus 5,000, minus 5,000. You're never going to see these bullets. And in your game, if you're making a game that walks the entire world, put them somewhere where you can never see them, okay? So what I want to do is I want to call this dot bullets count dot reset, right? And the reset method, which we have not defined yet, is going to put them at minus 5,000, minus 5,000. So if I go to my bullet class, in my reset function, I'm going to say that this dot x is equal to minus 5,000, and this dot y is equal to minus 5,000, right? And by default, right? By default, what I could do instead of calling my reset is I can call reset here. I call it one time. So I move them to minus 5,000, minus 5,000, right? That means that inside my bullet manager, I don't have to do that here. Okay? So that's what this is. This is creates the bullet and moves them off screen. Okay, the location. That's number one. And that builds up my pool. I have all my bullets. I have 50 bullets off screen. Okay? I also want to keep track of the current bullet. I want to know which bullet I'm using right now. Okay? And I'm going to keep track of that. Keep track of that here. So I'm going to say it's going to be a public thing, public variable. So I'm going to say I'm going to call it current bullet, which is going to be a number, right? And in my start method, I'm going to set the current bullet. Set the current bullet to 0, right? So this dot current bullet is equal to 0. And what this does is it sets which bullet I'm looking to in the beginning, the first bullet, right in the beginning of the array. I also want to have a public update function. And this update function is going to cycle through each of the bullets and update them. Because remember, the bullets have an update function. I'm going to update the bullets here. I'm going to say something like for each, right? I'm going to call this for each method. And where this is equal to the bullets for each bullet, and this is for each bullet, I want to bullet dot update. Right, so I'm going to update each of the bullets every time my bullet manager's update gets called. Right? If that makes sense. And that's, in a nutshell, for now, all I need. Okay, so I make my bullet manager, and my bullet manager needs to be added to my project, right? So remember, just like here, my scoreboard manager, my collision manager needs to know about my bullet manager, so it's probably going to go right here. I'm just going to put it in here. So bullet, right? And same thing, I'm going to put that inside of my core. Just while I'm doing this, I want to talk about your exam from last week. Most of you did very well. Most of you. Some of you forgot stuff, which is really, weird, but it is what it is. But for the most part, most of you looked like you did pretty well, like when I was looking at your stuff, right? So that was pretty good. So bullet, there we go. So now I've added my bullet manager to the scene, okay? Haven't really tested it, and I'm not going to close any other issues until I test everything. So I'm going to go back to my plane. Now that I have my bullet manager in place, right? I have this bullet fire, and what I want to do is I want to call the bullet into being, like I said, but I need to tell it where to appear. Well, I want it to appear on top of the plane, almost like in a bullet spawn position. Bullet spawn position. And the bullet spawn position should be a position that's just above the plane somewhere, right? Okay, that means the plane needs some kind of bullet spawn position. And I want to make this a a private instance variable. So I'm going to call this private underscore bullet spawn, which is going to be of type math.vec2. Remember, I added a math library. Vec2 is a vector2 object that gives me x and y coordinates, right? If I make this here, I need to instantiate it somewhere. I might as well instantiate it inside my start method. Just for instantiation purposes, I'm going to say something like this, dot underscore bullet spawn is equal to a new math.vec2, right? And by default, notice that they're optional. I'm just going to leave it blank. It's just instantiating the object. That's all it's doing, right? But here, right, when I'm calling it, I'm going to say that this dot underscore bullet spawn is equal to a new math.vec2, where this dot x is going to be the position, and it's going to be this dot y, right? Oops. Well, this dot y minus this dot height, so not the tip of my object, and let's say give it another minus, 2, something like that. The right at the tip of my object, and maybe 2 or 3 or 5. I don't know what the value will be here. But what this does is it creates the place where my bullet's going to appear. This is where my bullet's going to appear. Okay. So my plane, and then the top of my plane, that's where the bullet's going to be, right? Somewhere. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to say that whatever the current bullet is, I want to call it and move it into this location. Uh-oh, wait a minute. I don't know what the current bullet is, and I can't get it. I can't get it, right? Because the current bullet is inside of a bullet manager class that I don't have access to. And the bullet manager class hasn't even been instantiated yet. So now I need to go into my scene. In my play scene, I want to create a new bullet manager class. Now, there's some ways of doing this differently, but I'll talk about it. So here's my private bullet manager, which is of type managers.bullet. I need to instantiate it, but when I instantiate it, right, I want to bring it into being just like normal. So in my start method, somewhere over here, probably around the plane, I'm going to say that this dot underscore bullet manager is equal to a new bullet manager. Bullet manager. Oh, managers.bullet. Sorry, I'll be okay. All right, cool. That's cool, but I also want to keep track of it inside my game manager because I want to make it available, right? So what I'm going to do is in my game manager, again, this is like my globals. I want to create another object called public static bullet manager, just like I have here. Bullet manager. Make it the other way around. Is equal to of type objects or managers dot bullet. And what we're going to do inside of my scene class, again, you may disagree with this. There's different ways of doing this whole thing, right? I want to do something like this dot, managers dot game dot bullet manager is equal to this dot underscore bullet manager. So I make a reference to it here. So I'll make a reference to the bullet manager and the game manager. Okay? And I do that so I have access to it anytime I want. I'm only ever going to have 50 bullets, right? And then inside my updates, I'm going to call my bullet manager update. So this dot underscore bullet manager dot update, which updates all my bullets, the positions, where they are, and so on. Okay. And then inside my main method down here, I'm going to add the bullets, right, on after the plane gets added, right? So I'm going to say something like add the bullets to the scene, right? So I'm going to say this dot add child, and I want to call this dot, but I want to do this in a loop, right? Hold on a second. For each, just like I did before. For each, this dot underscore bullet manager dot bullets, right, for each bullet in bullets, I want to say this dot add child bullet, which adds all the bullets we've seen at minus 5,000, minus 5,000, wherever I put them, like way off screen somewhere. Okay, that's what this does. Are you with me? Okay, so I've added the bullets, but they're way off screen. Okay. All right, and just to keep track of that, let's see how many bullets there are. So just to see, I should only have, I should have 50-something objects now. So console.log, I'll say num objects, and equals to plus this dot number of children, which keeps track of how many objects are on the screen. So I want to make sure it always stays at 50-something, whatever they are. All right, so that's this part. And going back to my plane scene, here's my plane scene. So yeah, I create my bullet spawn, and then what I want to do is I want to kind of create an object that says current bullet. So let current bullet equal to, just to make it easier, managers.game bullet manager current bullet. Right, that's what that is. So current bullet is equal to this. So I don't have to always type that, right? And what I want to do is I want to say that I want to move that bullet to the bullet spawn location, right? I'm also going to, just to make it easier, it's not going to hurt to basically call the bullet whatever it's called. So let bullets equal to, this is for each bullet. I'm going to do this, right? Let bullet equal to managers.game bullet manager bullets current bullet. Okay. And then I want to say bullet.x is equal to this bullet spawn x, and bullet y is equal to this underscore bullet spawn y. And that should move the bullet, the current bullet, to the plane's location, right? And then what I want to do is increment the bullet spawn. So I want to say that, or sorry, the current bullet. I want to say then that managers.game bullet manager current bullets plus. Right? But what if it goes beyond 49? Then it's going to be, we're going to have a case where the array goes out of bounds. So I want to check that. I want to say that if managers.game, if managers.game, current bullet, let's grab this whole thing. Is greater than 49, then managers.game current bullet is equal to 0. We want to kind of reset it back to the beginning so that we always cycle through all the bullets. We never go beyond, we just keep on going through the array. I want to keep going through the array, right? Make sense? So this piece of code, convoluted as it is, keeps track of me firing the bullets with my spacebar, fires the bullets. I'm putting it inside the plane class, right? But question for you, and this is where I didn't have a chance to get to with the other class. Does it have to be? Does it have to be? Do I have to have my bullet fire method inside my plane class? That's the question. Because this method could be part of the bullet manager, right? But the problem is then you have to know about plane. You have to say that this dot plane like there's so many ways to do this, right? That's what I'm saying. It's like, this is just one way. So first of all, does it work? We don't even know if it works. This is a nice idea, but who the hell knows if it's even working, right? And we ran into some of the same stuff last time. So this bullet fire class, just to get an idea, it triggers, right, every frame. We always check to see if the plane is firing. Okay, that's what it's doing. We need to test this out. So we're going to save all. And we're going to go here. And just to fix this problem, I know I have a problem with my CSS that I didn't fix before the exam, but that's okay. This is wrong, right? It's not assets fonts, right? It's not dot assets fonts. It's dot assets fonts, right? This is going to go up from content to assets, inside there to fonts. And that's why the problem is. All right, so let's see if it works. So here, and if I press the button, we should see bullets firing. Now you can see that there's a bit of a space. See that space right there? I told it it's supposed to go right here. And if I kind of move my shift, it kind of goes around. And that's okay if that's what you want, but I'm not really good with that. That's like the whole thing and whatever. And that's too far. So that's from here to the whole thing here, plus another 2. That's why it's starting around here. See that? So I think it's too far. So let's just fix that. I'm going to go to back to my my plane class. So I'm going to go back to my plane. By the way, that took us the entire time. That thing there that I just did took us most of the time, right? And the reason for that is because there's a lot of errors made, and it's not an easy thing to remember how to do properly unless you've done it before. It's been a while for me as well. So in my plane, in my plane object, and I do apologize for the first class, but we learned a lot. In my plane class, you can see that I set my check bounds down here. So here's my check bounds. I say my check bounds, or sorry, my bullet spawn is this.y plus this.height. I didn't mean that. I meant this.half height. So it's just above my plane with a little bit, with 2 pixels above that. That's where I'm going. So instead of the full height of the plane. That's why it's so far away. So if I do this, and if I press starts, and if I press my spawn, I can see that it's a little better. It's like kind of right here. And if you don't want that extra two points, right? If you want to start right where it is, you can just kind of go right at the height of my plane. And if you did that and press start, you can see now that it's like much closer. Okay. So again, it's not bad. It's kind of far as to where it is. If you don't like the bullet speed, which we didn't have a chance to get into, by the way, notice the number of objects are 57. There's always 57 objects. Right? It never goes higher than 57 objects. Even when I fire my bullets, it doesn't go higher. There's 50 bullets I've pre-spawned, I've pre-instantiated, and I'm just using them over and over and over again. It doesn't add to this at all. And a couple of things we're going to do after this is keep track of our stats. I want to know how fast everything is running. We don't even know that, but I definitely don't need this anymore. Let's go back. This is all good. And I want to go back to my class. Here's my play class. And I don't need this anymore. In fact, I'll just kind of comment it out because we may put it back. Right? So here, we don't have to keep track of all this, how many objects we have. Okay, we're almost there in terms of the bullets being completed. Right? So one thing that we know is, if I go look at my objects here, I have a bullet sound. I didn't do this. I did this part for sure, right? I didn't do this part, this part, this part, this part, but I know this is working properly. So I can probably get rid of it. So I'm going to say close number 4. Go here, go all this, and say, oh wait, and I also closed off number 12 because I modified the plane class, right? I'm going to say added, bullet manager. Okay, and closes number, right? Closes number 4 and closes number 12, right? Close number 4, closes number 12, and then go like this, here, and push. And I do that. If I go back here and refresh, you can see now that I only have 5 open, and 7 closed. And if I go back to my milestones, you can see now that I'm 58% complete, right? Again, this is a neat way of tracking stuff. It's not quite as nice as Jira or some other tracking software, but it's got a nice way of connecting with GitHub. If you're someone who only uses GitHub, it's pretty cool. All right, so we're connected with GitHub too, I'm sure. Yeah. Same thing. Okay, good. And maybe even better. So again, if you look at this, you can see that I've got all my objects and everything else, but I don't make any sounds. And if I look at my issue tracking again, from my priority perspective, you can see that I have one high priority object, which is update collision manager so it knows about bullets. I didn't do this one, I didn't do this one, I didn't do this one because it's not as high priority as this one, right? This one's higher priority, so I'm gonna do that one next. So, collision manager. So now I'm firing my bullet. And before it was bullet and whatever I'm hitting, and plane, let's say, enemy. I don't have an enemy to connect to, right? So just like I did here, if my object 2 is colliding, my enemy is colliding, my enemy is also going to be a game object, right? Then I'm going to switch, right? I'm going to say, well, is the object 2 the coin? Is the object 2 the cloud? Is the object 2, in this case, is the object 2 the enemy? But this means that if object 1 collided with my enemy, like if my plane was the object 1 and it collided with my enemy, I would get some points too. Is that acceptable to you? Do I get points when I collide with the enemy plane? I don't know. I got to check that, is what I'm saying, right? So if it's my plane that collides with the enemy plane, then no, I don't get any points. But if it's my bullet that collides with my enemy plane, right, then I'm okay with that, okay? So I'm going to check like this. I'm going to say something like case. So here's my end of my case for my cloud. I'm going to say that, and this is something else. Notice that it says if object 1 alpha is not equal to 0. I don't have to check that for my bullet. My bullet doesn't matter if it's 0, if it's not equal to 0. If it's 0 or not, still I'm going to get things, right? I'm going to say case enemy. I haven't made this enemy yet, but I will. Then break. What am I going to do? Well, we don't care about the alpha being 0 because we're not going to flash my bullet. I want to create the explosion sound, same sound we used before. So create JS.sound. For now, I want to use the explosion sound, same sound. We'll make another sound later on. For now, this is good. I also want to delete the player. The enemy should disappear when it crashes, right? So I want to play the explosion. I added my explosion in, but now I'm going to use the exact same explosion for now. I don't have a little explosion. I'm going to use the same explosion. Something that looks like this, right? So I'm going to kind of copy this code for now and put it in here. So when I hit the enemy also explodes. Yay. Cool. Curiously, I made new explosions and got rid of them, right? And I didn't make an explosion manager. So what I could have done, just like I did with bullets, right? Maybe I'll do the same thing for particle systems in the future, is make an explosion pool where I have 30 explosions or 20 explosions that I instantiate ahead of time. And this way, I don't have to make new explosions. I just move the explosion and set it up in that specific spot, right? And the reason for this is for memory management, right? I have this many things, and I keep using them over and over again, as opposed to respawning and reinstantiating objects. For now, though, this is OK. So I add a child to the current scene. It says object 1.alpha is 0. That's not going to be true. I don't need to do my plane flash. I don't need to do any of this stuff. But I do need to do some of this stuff. I want to do, adding my points to the scene, right? And now when I look at this, I'm like, hold on a second, look at this. I've got this, my score is going to be %1000. I want to increase my score somehow, but here I only check it here, but I can increase my score somewhere else. So I want to kind of do this, right? Manager score plus equal to 100 down here. So this is definitely something I want to do. I want to increase my score. But instead of 100, maybe for destroying enemies, I get 200. Okay? That's the first thing. So I can get more points when I destroy an enemy. When I hit an enemy, maybe I don't destroy him, but when I hit him, I get 200 points, right? I also want to get rid of the enemy. So the enemy has to die somehow, right? So how do I do that? I can reset the enemy, right? Maybe he's going to come down at the top and then fire at me, right? And then move around and fire again, and then move around and fire again, or try and chase me or something. We don't know that enemy logic yet. We just need a target. We're not doing the enemy today, remember? We're just doing bullet fire. The enemy logic and modifying the enemy logic, that's another user case, because we don't know. The enemy AI, we're not doing that today. That was not the plan. The plan is, can I make bullet fire, can I hit the enemy, can I destroy the enemy, can I make an explosion? That kind of stuff, right? If you try and do AI now, we're not going to finish today, right? And that's why you have to keep to your criteria, all right? So I'm going to get some points, and I'm going to reset the enemy. I don't have an enemy to reset, but I'm going to put some pseudocode in here. So I'm going to say something like, reset enemy. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to destroy the enemy, but I'm not really going to destroy him. I'm going to just reset him. He's going to come back to the scene again, like another enemy plan. Okay? Cool. So that's this part. So I need to detect the collision between the enemy. And that means that all this detection stuff up here, which I've already been doing, so the distance between my object and the enemy, has to be still working. This is still good. Okay? So this has been modified, but not tested. It's been not tested. So to test it, I need an enemy class, right? So let's go back into objects, and I'm going to add new file. Now, you know what? I did modify it, and if I have a bug, I'll fix it. So I'm going to go and do something like this. Going back to my thing, I did modify this so it knows about bullets, right? Kind of, because this is what's going to happen with an enemy, right? So I do close number 5. Now you might argue against it again, but because it's not really tested, but it's okay. We'll do another bug if it doesn't work. So I want to say something like added or updated collision manager. Include a bullet. Because that's what the bullet will hit the enemy. Really not. Oh, see, now I forgot to close off the issue, so you can close it off manually. So you go here and go to here, and what I can do is I can just put in close. And that'll close off that issue. And if you don't want to, you can reopen it. Right, so manual control. All right, cool, so that is gone, right? And now what I want to do is I got to hit my medium ones. I need an enemy class and an asset for the bullet sound, right? I think the enemy class I want to do first, right? Because who cares about the bullet sound right now? I want to see if it hits the enemy. That's more important for me. So they're both medium priority, but I think the enemy is more important. So I'm going to go to my objects. I want to make a new file called, and again, if this was going to be my big enemy, I would call him big enemy or little enemy or whatever, but let's just call him enemy for now. And my enemy is like the plane, like a cloud, like some of these other things, but a little different. So it's going to start at the top somehow, randomly, a random location. It's also going to fire its own bullets eventually. Or maybe what it's going to do is just come down at you, like in a random location. So it's just going to slam into you, like the cloud, right? It's going to fly. Now you got to think about where the plane is going to fly. It's going to fly below the clouds, so it can hide underneath the clouds, right? Not above the clouds. So it's going to be like your level, right? So it's an enemy plane. It's going to pass underneath the clouds. It's going to come at you, and if it smashes into you, you die right now. Okay? There's no bullet firing from the enemy. That's another thing to do. Okay? All right, so if the enemy object is like the island, That's what we're going to make. We're going to make the enemy object kind of similar to the island. I'm just going to grab all this code. And again, this is just to have a target for the bullet, so it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. We'll call this enemy. Call this enemy. Right? Instead of 5, we'll make it so it comes down really fast. Maybe it'll come down 10. So something like much faster than before, right? So it's going to come fairly fast, 10 for us. It's going to be a random location every time when it comes down, right? And if we miss it, if we miss the enemy, we can avoid the enemy maybe, but we can also fire at the enemy. And if we fire at the enemy and destroy it, it'll reset the enemy, right? That's what it's going to do. So it's going to reset some distance. One thing to note is the Y is this dot height, you know, and that's maybe not so good. Maybe we'll put way back, maybe like another screen back, so it doesn't come every single time really, really fast, as fast as the island. Let's say like this dot, you know, negative 480 or something like that. Right, so way back. So we'll start some random location off screen, and so it'll come every other screen, not every screen. Otherwise, it's too fast. And maybe that might even change even more. That's where it's going to come from. It's going to come down this dy. When it comes to the bottom, it's going to reset to the height, right? Right back to the reset. Okay, that's what's going to happen. The reset method itself is public, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the public reset method when I hit it with a bullet, right? But the explosion is going to instantiate where it was. So the explosion is going to be left, and the enemy is going to be, kind of reset. Okay, so let's try this out. So we're going to go like this. We're going to say that the, well, first of all, we're adding a new object, which is called enemy. So what we need to do is go back and do the same thing we always do. So enemy. So like we've done before, we have bullets, and bullet needs to know about enemy. So enemy is going to be way out here. Okay, so we'll say this will be enemy. And we'll put this inside of our core reference.ts. And then here's our bullet needs to know about enemy thing. Enemy. So enemy's in the game. But in my scenes, in my play scene, I need to instantiate my enemy. I'm not going to put my clouds back yet, okay? So I've got in the top, I've got my island, my clouds, my bullet manager, all this kind of stuff. Let's add in my enemy. It doesn't matter where you add them. I'll put him here. Private enemy, which is objects.enemy. And then what I'll do is down in here. So ocean, islands. Now, this doesn't matter where it's instantiated, but I probably want to keep them around the same level as the bullet and the, it's going to be above the island, but it doesn't matter. I'll put it here somewhere. So create an enemy. Wow. So this dot underscore enemy is equal to a new objects dot enemy. This does, but it's not in the scene yet until main. I go down here, and now you got to think, where is it going to be? I'm going to update my enemy too. It doesn't matter where. I'm going to put him next to the plane. Enemy dot update, so he'll update his position. Okay, so the position of the enemy is going to be updated, and then when I check my collision, it's going to be, so I check the plane and the coin, I check the cloud, the plane and the cloud, and then I'm going to check the managers.collision.check. This dot, okay, now this is interesting. I want to check the bullet, right, and the enemy, any bullet. That means this has got to go into some kind of for each loop. I'm going to check each bullet. So this dot underscore bullet manager dot bullets, right, for each, and then just going to say the bullets, right? And what we're going to do is do one of these, but then this is interesting. We're going to check for each bullet If there was more than one enemy, oh God, how would we do that? More than one enemy, more bullets. It means I'd have to do a for loop instead of a for loop, right? Which is like checking each bullet for each enemy collision, right? So this gets pretty tedious pretty fast when you think about this. So it's okay for small amounts of stuff on the screen, but if it's larger, we'd have to change our structure here. This is not the way to check things. Okay? It's almost like the enemy would have to check itself. All right, so managers the collision.check. So we're going to do the same thing. Managers collision.check. And again, it's this sort of the bullet with the enemy. So we have one enemy, and if any bullet hits the enemy, then there's a collision. Okay, any bullet. I only have me firing bullets, right? So it's my bullet and the enemy, right? Yes. Enemy and me? I haven't checked that yet. That's just me. That's my. I don't care about that. Remember, I'm making a bullet fire. That's another thing. As a user, if the enemy hits me, I should die, right? As a user, I should see the enemy try and avoid my bullets. As a user, the enemy should, or as the enemy should be able to fire bullets at me as it's coming down, right? The enemy should have a distinct firing pattern, distinct flight pattern. I mean, I can keep going on and on. Some kind of AI, right? I should have different kinds of enemies, big enemies and small enemies, big islands and small islands. You know, like you can go on and on about this, right? For now, all I care about is, does the bullet hit the enemy? Can I check that? And I'm not going to add clouds right now, just the enemy. All right, so this is what this does. Let's go back to the collision manager for a second. So again, I'm going to go managers, collision, and you can see that, yeah, I got some points. But what I want to do is reset the enemy. So the enemy is actually object 2. And this isn't right. It's not object 1. It's object 2 where the explosion happens this time. Oops. And my resetting enemy is going to be object 2.reset. Object 2 gets reset, right? The explosion happens. The explosion happens, it makes a sound, I get points, and then it resets. But there's a problem. Like I said to you before, right? I don't keep track of this part. All of this part, right, is something that I have to do again. So now, because I have to do it again, there's a case for another method. Does that make sense? Because we don't have a method like this, right? And I'm doing this over and over again. Again, this should be a feature fix, because right now I just want to add some points, but this isn't what I'm doing today. I'm not fixing this problem. I'm making my bullets fire and hit something. That's what I want to do today. Okay, I didn't check this part out. This is some other issue, an issue that I have to raise later on. Now, if you're a good programmer, I would raise this issue now, but it wouldn't be part of this milestone. It would be part of another milestone. Okay? Okay, let's check this out and see if it works. So maybe I've done everything, maybe I haven't. We'll figure it out, right? So save everything. Let's make sure everything's saved. Go back to here and start the game. Oh man, where the heck's my enemy? Well, we never added them to the screen, I don't think. So placing, I've got my enemy. I updated my enemy, but I never added him in. So here he is down here. So where's my enemy going to be updated? Somewhere here, like around the plane level. And the bullets are going to be above the enemy. Yeah, it sounds good. I mean, it's going to be around the same level anyway. Something like this. But it's going to be underneath the clouds. So this dot add childs, this dot underscore enemy. And so add the enemy plane to the scene. Okay. All right, let's see if it works now. Oh yeah. Let's check and see if it works properly. I'm not going to try and destroy the enemy yet, but I want to see if it kind of goes above the if it ever goes above the, yeah, does it go above, it goes above my plane, goes above the island. This is good. It's a little dark, to be honest with you. I'm not very happy with it in terms of how it is. But let's see if I can kill it. So, right, pretty good, right? So one hit does it, and then it resets. So, right, does it again. Maybe it's coming too fast. I'm kind of going against enemies in this level. There's no clouds. It's a clearing somehow. I still got to pick up my mail, but the enemy gets hit, and I just keep strafing and hit it. Right? I mean, it's pretty simple. Right? So let's give it a little bit of. I think the enemy's coming down too fast, but I was able to check my collisions. I didn't check my collision between the enemy and me. That wasn't the thing here. Yeah, the score is pretty high, 3,300. That makes sense because every time I hit the enemy, I get 200 points, right? So let's just do this, right? Right? And I can keep on doing this all day long. And there's no risk to me because the enemy can't hurt me for now. But you can see I can just strafe. Even when my enemy is off screen, I can hit him. And that's wrong, right? I shouldn't be able to hit him if he's not on the screen somehow. So I need to kind of detect in the future iteration of this game, hey, is my enemy on the screen? If the enemy's on the screen, I can fire all I want, but I'm not going to hit him until he's on the screen, right? So I got to check that too. So the enemy class has to be modified, so I can only hit him when he's on screen. Now, you may argue that that's part of the bullet firing thing, right? Because I'm firing against the enemy, so I could add that in as an issue. Let's do that. That's a new issue. So, but we can close this issue off. So, need a bullet sound. I didn't do this. Need a target for the enemy class. I did this, right? I'm not really using the right explosion or the enemy hit sound, right? So I can't do these two, right? But this one here, need a target. This is closed. That's number 6. So I'm going to go here and I'll say something like added enemy version 1, right? Closes, I think, close number 6. Yeah, close number 6. And if I use the wrong word, if I say close instead of closes, sometimes GitHub is finicky enough that it won't shut that down, right? But I'm pretty good. So that is fine. I got these 3 things left, and I want to add a new issue, which is the enemy shouldn't be able to be hit until he's on screen, right? Enemy should not be hit until he appears on screen, right? And that is kind of a bug fix, right? Because that's something that I didn't anticipate. So let's use a bug for that one. That's kind of a bug, right? So I can hit him all I want, as many times as I want. And it's still part of the same milestone, right? It's it's kind of a medium priority, I would say, because, you know, we're just dealing with it now, but it's high priority because I detected it now and I want to take care of it. So submit to issue. So I want to fix that right now. This one, number 13. So how do I fix that? How do I know when the enemy's on the screen? I need to do a boundary check. If he is greater than 0, then he can be hit. That means I have to have a flag that he's able to be hit, right? Somehow. Okay, but that means that, how do I transmit that to the collision manager? How do I say that the enemy is alive, right? Well, what I can do is what I did the same trick I did with the plane, which is I can turn his alpha to 0. So the enemy, when he's off screen, he's not even going to be drawn. He's going to be off screen, he's going to be alpha, he's going to be 0, right? So whenever he resets, the alpha is 0, and when he's on screen, the alpha is 1, right? And if he's not, if his alpha, I can check for his alpha, and if his alpha is 0, I can't hit him. If his alpha is 1, I can hit him. Very simple, right? And that was just off the top of my head. I'm sure you guys can think of other ways to do that too. So if I go back to the objects, and if I look at the enemy, Here's my enemy object. In my reset function, I'm going to say that, yeah, he's off screen, and this dot alpha is equal to 0. Okay? And then in a boundary check, I'm going to say that, well, if check bounds, if this dot y is greater than or equal to 480, then reset. But what happens if I want to check the top bounds? So I can say that if this dot y is greater than or equal to 0, and this dot alpha is equal to 0, but both of those conditions have to be true. So if it's invisible and this is true, so I don't want to reset his alpha every time, right? Otherwise, I'd be resetting his alpha to 1 every single frame. I don't want to do that when he's in the screen. Then I want to say this dot alpha is equal to 1. So I'm going to turn him back on, turn enemy back on when he appears on the screen. And we shouldn't use he or she, we should use it, right, when it appears on the screen. So turn it back on. Now we have something to check. So in my collision manager, right, so under managers collision, we can use this alpha value to check, just like we did here, right? So we can say something that if object 2.alpha is not equal to 0, then check collisions. Listen here. If object 2, which is the enemy, is not equal to 0, then check collisions. Otherwise, don't even bother. Because he's not even on the screen. He's off screen somewhere. That makes sense. Just format this little file because that's the kind of guy that we are. Format document, or kind of girl. In your case, somewhere if you're watching remotely in your girl. That's good. So that's the kind of programmer that we are, right? We're going to check and reformat everything so it looks nice. Okay, and then we can see that we have this check in place. We'd only add or collide with things when the enemy is back on. Let's check this. So again, we're going to go back to here. We're going to play, and we can see that he's off screen. So if I fire, see, I'm not just getting random shots. Now he appeared on the screen, so I'm okay. But I didn't see that would have hit him. But only when he appears on the top of the screen can I hit him. It just doesn't appear randomly, so I can't get crazy points, right? Unless he's physically on the scene. Okay, cool. Looks pretty good. Questions so far? I think it's pretty straightforward stuff, guys. Look what I've done, right? All right, so that took care of that issue. So let's fix this part. Okay, and you can see again how we staged all these, and we're going to say detected, add detection, added detection, enemy detection. We'll say enemy detection. That's it. Closes number 13. So why is this issue tracking so cool? Well, when you look at how I'm taking care of the bugs, I know I'm hitting everything. I can stay on target, the stuff that I want. I got all these commits, and you can see how they're now related to a particular issue. It's not just random commits that I'm adding in, especially with the scripts. You can see that there are certain scripts that have been updated, right? So each of these things, the last commit that I had, tells you when everything got added and what issue it closed, right? So it's quite more accurate than what we've done before in the past. Again, there's other systems out there like Jira and other kind of project management software that does some similar stuff like this, and even hooks into GitHub. Okay, so now we need a couple more things and we're done for the day. So new bullet sound asset for bullet class we just never added it in. So let's do that. So I'm going to go to here. I'm going to go to my core, into my game.ts, and now add in a bullet sound. So it's actually called, it's actually called bullet, I believe. .mp3. Whoa. That is totally not what I wanted, but that's okay. Whoa. I don't know what that did there. Oh, I did a diff. What the heck? Oh, I opened up default settings. Where is that? Here it is. All right, I didn't care about that. So that, and oh, just a random thing. I think it's called bullet. And to make sure, what's it called? We can go to, you want to be accurate, assets, sound, or audio, and it's called bullet MP3, right? And we should call it bullet. Now, ooh, we got to be careful here because we have bullet here and we have bullet here, right? So you may want to call it bullet sound just to protect yourself. It probably won't matter because we're instantiating in a different way, right? But hey, it just protects you, right? So here's my bullet sound. And what I want to do is every time I click the button, every time I fire a bullet, and that would be inside my plane class, so objects, plane, I want to play that impulse sound, which is a bullet firing, right? So I fire the bullets, I update the bullets, and then finally I play the sound. I'm going to say that create.js sound play sound. All right, let's check it and see if it works. Right. No risk to me. I'm like, perfect. There's no clouds, just one enemy. Who cares, right? So the bullet sound works. Yay, fantastic. I made it work. Wasn't that hard anyway. So let's just put this up. That's why it wasn't a high priority as well, right? We've got this going here, and we want to say added bullet sound. It closes issue number 3. So added bullet sound closes number 3. Okay. And that's closed. Okay, sound for asset for an enemy hit. And we also have an explosion class to manage small explosions. I'm pretty happy with the explosion we have. Even though I brought in the other explosion, it's a small explosion. Maybe I'd want to use that for a smaller plane. But this plane, it's so massive, the small explosion would look really weird. Unless, which we don't have right now, unless the plane took more than one hit. Like, let's say if it was a boss monster. And it was like, I had more than one hit to take to kill the plane. So I would do small explosions first, and then a big explosion, right? That could work, okay? So that would probably work for this. And also a sound asset for enemy hit, which is like an explosion, right? I already kind of have an explosion, so this was like kind of unnecessary. So I can actually reduce this one for sure. I'm gonna go here and say, using the same explosion sound asset for enemy hit for now. Again, you may disagree with this. You might say, well, your sound guy says no. You want a different sound. For now, I'm okay with this. And I'm going to close and comment. So let's close. And I'm going to go back out here. And you can see there's one left. You need an explosion class to manage small explosions. We can do this as the final thing. So we have an explosion class, right? We have an explosion class, and this one. And the explosion class basically instantiates new explosions using an animation to, it calls an animation to make this work, right? It uses something of an explosion type. That's what it is, right? And it's like I'm doing the exact same thing, except it's small explosion instead of explosion. So what do you recommend? quick fix for this one. Come on, guys. I want to use an explosion. It's going to operate the exact same way. Everything's going to be the same, except it's going to be a small explosion instead of a big explosion. I could use that. Yeah, like all it is this part here, right? In the superclass, right? So what I could do is when I make my explosion, I can choose what type in the constructor I send in, small explosion or big explosion. And then whatever I do, that would do it. So my explosion class would be a little different. So let's do that. So in my explosion class, I'm going to take the animation string, or call it the sprite string, whatever that's going to be. Maybe there's going to be a medium explosion too, right? I know I'm going to. There's only one place. Yeah. So sprite string, here's my sprite string, is of type string, right? And I'm going to pass in my sprite string right here, so it gives me more flexibility. Now, depending on the explosion that I put in, right, I'm good, but it causes other problems because whenever I make an explosion, and that's, notice where it heads me into the managers, right? This red area says, hey, this is a problem now because my explosion doesn't do that. Here's my collision manager where I have this. This is the only place where it is, and I pass in explosion, right? And the same thing goes up here, right? That's what this is. So I'm going to test it with this one, the same one we had all the time, and see if it still works. That's the first step. Does it still work the same way? If it doesn't work the same way, then I messed something up, right? So this is all that I had to do. That was the quickest fix that I could think of. Not even making another class. I reuse the same class, pass in a different animation. Okay. So let's check it out, and let's see if I fire, still works. Right? I don't die yet because that's not what I'm supposed to do. And let's just to make it more exciting, let's add a couple of clouds back in. Instead of it being, level 1, maybe would have, this is level 1, I would have maybe I wouldn't probably have the plane, but let's say I was playing another level. In my cloud class, as an example, instead of me having 0 clouds, let's add in 2 clouds, make it more challenging, but not 3. That's too hard. 3 clouds and an enemy. Woo! Right? And my enemy would hit me, right? Right now it doesn't hit me. Okay, cool. And if I start, now I'm in trouble. Whoa, see, I would have died there. Okay, cool. Oh, whoa, right? The enemy would have killed me there too. And now it makes it more challenging. Whoa, see, I would have to hit the enemy. I almost died there. Maybe I could have used my guns. There we go. Right? So I can always fire, right? That's kind of a crappy thing. I can hold it down to fire. And maybe what I have to do is stop that from happening. I would have died there. Oh, I'm died. Yeah. So it all works. Looks like it's working nicely, right? But I can get a lot of points now. And this is where we talked about how we talked about this number of points being not right for 1,500 points. Remember we talked about this? I said 1,000 points, not going to be enough eventually. Because you're going to have enemies, you're going to have other things that are going to prevent you from getting killed, and that's not cool, right? Okay, so this is good. I like this. And we checked it. So now let's check with a small explosion. So what I want to do is I want to make so that the big explosion works with me, but the small explosion works with the enemy. So go back to Collision Manager, and now let's check what it says. So core game.ts, there's something called small explosion, all lowercase. That's weird. I don't think I made it like that for anything else, but that's fine. Yeah, see start button, small explosion. All right, so I take my small explosion. Now this is, gotta watch it because it's the way I brought it into, this could be a problem. I'll keep it lowercase. Only because this is the way I brought it into texture packer, and I might have a problem later. So if I go to my managers, my collision manager, and go and when I hit my enemy with my bullet, I have a small explosion. Let's see if that works. And how does it work? Does it work? Right, so if I can, whoa, what the hell? Oh, okay, cool, that was weird. See, it doesn't make any sense. It works, but that works. It'd be okay for a small plane, but for this big plane, unless I had to hit you a bunch of times, it works. So I can make small explosions and big explosions. Right? I'm just swapping out the explosion animation. Okay, cool. So that works. I don't like it, but I'm going to keep it. So I've tested it. Good. We're good. All right. So I'm going to go back to. I'm following whatever I was supposed to do. My manager told me I had to check for small explosions. Now I got that done. Right. All right. So I put all those in. I'll say added small explosions. Right. And this closes off issue number 9. Closes number 9. Okay. Cool. So I've got my game now, and you can see that this is cool. And maybe I want to make a, you can see that I've got no issues anymore. And my milestones, you can see, are 100% complete. And this is something I never got a chance to do with the other group. If I click on this thing, you can see that it gives me more details, right? No issues open with the milestone, right? I can edit the milestone, I can change it or whatever, but you can keep track of these milestones, right? The other thing you can do is there's something called releases, right? So let's say, for example, this is my release, right? I just made a release, and my release was like, I'm going to release version 0.1, because guess what? I got my stuff going on. I did a really good job. I want to make a release. I want to create a new release. And what this release does, I can tag the version, right, on master. So I'll say 0.1, right? And I'll say release 0.1 includes bullet firing and non-colliding enemy, right? And then this is a pre-release, so non-production ready, right? And then click on publish release. So what this does is it allows me to download the source code right away. This is a really cool feature of GitHub. So I can download just this. So I don't need to download, like, go to the whole thing and download everything else. I can just download this release version, which is kind of really cool. So it bundles everything up for that particular release. It's almost like I create a snapshot of my development at that particular point in time for that branch. And if you notice, I have one release, so I can go to here, and then I can have this, and I can get a link for this that I can put on my README file, right? So I could say go to current release, and the current release will be this pre-release one, right? So, and if I want to target this, here's my, notice it says that it goes releases, right? There's an actual link here. So I can kind of copy this link, right? And inside of my my README file, which I don't have, I can add a new README file. So see current releases, right? Now, for the life of me, I can't remember how to do a link with Markdown. Markdown link. It's been a long time. So links, and it's like this. Yeah. So it's just, Markdown is just another way of doing stuff code. So I say see current releases, and I'll say see current releases like this. With my link, oops, my link in brackets. I think that's how it's done. But it's got to be right next to it though. So it's got to be like this. And then what I can do is I'm adding a new README file. I'm going to click create commit README file. And then it should say current releases. If I click onto it, it'll take me to my current releases. This is pretty cool. And then what I can do is, because I don't have this README file locally, I can pull it back. So I can go back here. Sorry. I can go to here and then go to here and pull. And now when I go back to the front, I have a README file, which is right here, that has my current release information with a little preview. And cool. Any questions so far? So kind of cool. I talked about milestones. I talked about issues today for those people who want to use it. I've also talked about how to do a bullet pool, how to change little things like an explosion by using different animations. You can do that for other things too, like your player. If you have a different loadout, you can come out with same player, different loadout, different image, completely no problem for people who are doing like a tank game. But one thing I didn't cover is performance. So how do I manage how do I see how I'm performing? I don't know if I'm really doing 60 frames per second. I think I am, but I don't know. And there's a really cool tool to download for this. I'm just going to stop serving up my file for a second. And I'm going to download a new tool, all right? And just to go there beforehand to show you where that is, there's actually a tool called Stats.js. That's created by this guy, Mr. Doob. Mr. Doob is the guy who made who's also made 3JS, which is 3JS is an amazing library. If I go to 3JS, right, with WebGL, and it allows you to do 3D, objects and games, using the web, which is WebGL games, all right, and all that kind of stuff. You can do different examples and stuff. It's amazing, and it keeps, he keeps on adding to it. But one of the things he's added in as well is he's added this tracker that allows us to, keep track. It's a little stats block that comes up that tells us how many frames per second we're moving on. Now, there's 134 commits. This has been worked on fairly regularly, I would say. You can see that the last one's probably done about 8 months ago, some minor checks, right? But the way it works is this. You'll see this little panel that'll come up in the top left corner of your screen. And by the way, you can move it wherever you want. But it comes up in the top left corner of your screen by default. And here's the code. It's that simple. That's all you have to put in. All right, but what we need to do is we need to add it in. We can add it in. So how do we do that? And I'm just going to fill some of these things. In fact, let's just close off everything that's opened. Sure, we'll save everything that's been opened. Excelente. And what I want to do is I want to add this into our project. And the way to do that is using Yarn again, right? So I'm going to say yarn add stats.js minus save, right? And Yarn will go up, grab stats, and put it in. And then I'll say yarn add at types stats.js minus save minus dev, because it's a development dependency, and put that in as well. There we go. Yay. Excellent. And then I'll serve it again, light-serve it. So I can see that nothing's changed, just everything's working. Oh, I got to go back there and put it back in. So again, stats.js is here. So the reason why I need this is because of the usage. The usage is pretty clear. It's right here. That's what I need to put in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here, and in my core, my game.js, what I want to do is I'm going to create this initialization for my stats. I need two things. I need a stats object, which is going to get here. So I'm going to call it let stats give type stats. Okay. You can see that it detects that this is a stats class. Now that I've added in Yarn, I yarned it in. And I have an it and I have a start, but I want to have something else called init stats. You can also call it setup stats. And what I want to do here is I want to grab this stuff, copy it, and paste it in. We already have a stats object I called up there, so I don't have to do this. I'm going to make a new stats object. Instead of showing milliseconds, I want frames per second. So I'm going to change this number to 0. It's going to append child to the DOM, so you can actually see the stats. You can also turn this off later on when you're in, this is development mode we're still in, but if you're in deployment mode, you turn this off. So then I'm going to call this thing. I'm going to say, init stats. I'm going to do this inside my start method. This is going to initialize stats for performance counting. I'm going to count how I'm doing in terms of frames, every frame. And then inside my update function, right, I'm going to start off with a stats.begin. And at the bottom, way at the bottom here where I update my stage, I'm going to say stats.end. So I'm counting from here to here. So every frame, I'm counting. Now again, if I wasn't doing this, I could turn it off, right, or whatever. But for now, I want to count what my stats are like. So going back, if I did everything properly, which I didn't, right? So why isn't this working? Because I haven't included the library. So I went and added it in. I added the code in, but inside my index.html, I never added in a library for stats, which is going to be up here. So normally what we do, just like this one, I'll just add another library in here, underneath here. So it's node modules. Okay, if we search for what it is, under stats.js, so stats.js. It's not even lib, it's under stats.js. /, and then let's take a look. Under stats.js, under build, under stats.min.js. Stats.min.js, there you go. Stats.js, build, I'll be okay. We got build, stats.js build, stats.min.js, there it is. All right, so that added in this library. Okay, now we should see a stats thing. And what this does is it tracks to see if we're achieving frames per second. Okay? Now, this is the thing to note. Remember that I'm achieving 60 frames per second on my computer locally. But what happens when I put this up on GitHub pages? Do I still get 60 frames per second? Am I slowing down? Is there something I can do to improve my stuff? I don't know, right? Let's start my game. So start, you see that I'm moving. Take a look at my stats. Is it 60? Hold on. Locally, I'm getting 60 frames per second, no problem. But what about remotely? Okay. Locally, I'm getting 60 frames per second. But I'm not getting 60 frames. Maybe I'm not going to get 60 frames per second when I put it up online. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? You think I will? Let's see. I hope you're right. So the way to check this, and again, this is something that we'll be using later on when I use particles. When I have a particle system playing instead of like explosion animation, and I have particles firing, and there's 500 particles on the screen in addition to everything else, I may see some degradation. It may not. It may be acceptable as well. It might be an acceptable degradation. All right, so a couple last things I want to do before we go. In fact, let's just, I know it's working, so I added the stats. Let me put these back up for a second. I'm going to say added performance counting, performance count to project. That's what this is. when I kind of add all this, kind of save it and push it. This is not an issue-related commit. It's a commit that I'm doing to add some kind of development, kind of thing. It's not even a real dependency, but it's for me to count my stats. It's another library. And just so that way, we didn't cover this, so I'm going to put this up on Slack for COMP397 if you're interested to get this thing. I think it's worthwhile to count your performance, and that would be here if you're interested in grabbing it. Again, I think it's worthwhile. I like these. Okay, so here it is. So very, very cool. Mr. Dube, he's got to give him props because he's one of the guys that's really worked hard on his projects, and it's open source. All right. So again, got this part. This is what it looked like before, or this one, what I have with stats. Notice that it craps out when I go to another page and comes back. You can see that sometimes that happens. Well, because it goes into the background, right? So what happens is it kind of pauses when you switch tabs. There's a web app, right? What I want to do now is I want to put it on the web. So I'm going to close this off. That's all I want to do from a performance perspective. I want to Control-C to stop this thing and close this off too. And I have my code, right, that I've been using. Here's right here. This is my actual project. This is the project that I keep replacing. And I'm going to upload this one. I've added a lot of stuff, and what I like to do is get rid of it all. Because this is, again, it's going to be me putting this stuff up. Config and you're unlocked, yeah, all this stuff. I just want to keep my CNAME in there. So move to trash. And I want to take my COMP397 folder. Notice I just get my CNAME in there, right? And my H file, which is here, I want to grab all of this stuff, copy it, and put it back in there. So this makes sure that it's the latest version of my project that's going to go up. My GitHub is the same. I didn't kill my GitHub. GitHub is hidden, right? So I can go here and go to CD space. And I want to go to this project. There's a separate project that I have, my github.io. I'm pulling it in. And now you can see that if I do a git status, I have all these things I've changed, right? And it's only going to mark the stuff I've changed. You can see I've changed almost everything. Like, so a lot of things I added in, but not everything. It doesn't keep track of all. Like, I didn't change everything. Some things didn't change. Like coins and enemies and plain flash, all those things are different. But the rest of the files didn't change much, right? And I'm not going to go through which files changed. It's too slow. So I'm going to say git add dot, git commit -m, and I'll say updated project to release 0.1. Git push origin master, and git put master, which is going to push up to the master branch. Cool. Now it takes a few minutes for GitHub to know that it's been updated typically. So if I go to github.io, so if I go to my site, right, I got my stats counter. That's my own domain, like we saw before. You can see that I'm already getting a degradation. I want you to try it yourself and see what I'm talking about. It depends on the machine that I'm on, my machine. You try this on your phone, it's going to be different, right? Or even on your iPad or something like that. If I click start, I got 2 planes. I can still fire. My stats are pretty good. I'm close to 60 frames per second. I'm good. I'm happy. Wait, something's not working though. Wait, did you notice something? Do I flash anymore? Whoa. That is not working. Flash is not working. Plain flash. Did you notice that? Why is that happening? That's a new thing. Right? That's a new thing. So I've got a bug, friends. Plain flash stopped working after I added in the explosions. I don't know why. And it also, I did a bunch of other stuff, but it crashes too fast, right? I shouldn't be able to crash that fast. My plane flash should turn on and turn off when my animation is done, right? So that's kind of weird. Why isn't plane flash working? So back to the drawing board really quick. I'm going to pull in my last thing. Sorry, I know we're running a little bit over time. Just give me 1 second. Maybe I can see it. If I can't, we'll say goodbye, and we'll try and fix it next week. So 2 things. I have my folder, which is here. Yeah, I know, but it's also the one. If it's there, then it's here too. Like if it's not, if it only ran in one place, if it was only having a problem in one place, then fine. But I think I missed it here somehow. So let's see why. I know that we never tested it. That's one thing we never tested. So if I go to scripts for game.ts, I want to see, did I mess it up? Sometimes what happens is when we do this rebalancing stuff, plane flash, frames, 26, 27, 26, 27, 26, 27, 25, 26, 27. And then this is going to trigger 0.08 speed, right? Plane flash. And it's going to happen when my plane gets hit. So that is under Collision Manager. When my cloud hits, I do a go to and play plane flash. That's only if my object alpha is not equal to 0. Object 1 alpha is not equal to 0. Great.js.sound, object 1 alpha is equal to 0. Then manage, oh, I know why. Ha. Okay, so I made my plane object 1.alpha, right? So what I mean is if object 1.alpha is equal to 0, but look what's happening here. What if I go through this case? If it's a cloud, I collide with my cloud, right? And I say that all the time, whenever I collide, my manager.game.planeflash.alpha is equal to 1, right? And my object 1.alpha is equal to 0. So this is when it turns on, right? Where only object 1.alpha is not equal to 0. So let's do some troubleshooting. So let's see if it actually gets here, where my my plane flash, because this go to and play plane flash, right? So let's do one of these. I'm putting a breakpoint in. I kind of showed this a little bit to the class earlier. What I want to do is hit this little button here, which is debugging. And what I want to do is I want to launch my Chrome here. I'm going to kind of launch it. And it's going to play the game. Isn't that interesting? It was totally working earlier today. But now that I'm recording, it won't work. Okay. A couple things that are happening here. I'm not, am I playing my scene? I'm not playing my scene. So let's just do that. Let's just play everything again, as if I was doing it from the very beginning. So what I want to do is go cd/, let's see space, go over here, play this, and then light-server. This is my local object running, right? So I can see it's not going to work again. See? Done. My plane flash is no longer working. And this is good. And what I wanted to go back to this, into my, I'm going to run my, before I do this, I'm going to run my watch task. There we go. And now when I do this, I'm going to go do that debugging step. So I'm going to go here, and hopefully this will run. It ran before, totally. But yes, good. So what this does is it runs in debugging mode, okay? You can see it's running a little bit slower. Look at the frame rate. So I'm running both games at the same time, right? So what I want to do is I want to get to the point where I have a collision here. It's going to stop at breakpoint number 1 right here. Okay? So play the game. I'm playing in debug mode. You can see how it's a little bit slower. Okay, good. Now it's come to this. All right, so it came here, and I can see that my plain flash alpha is 1, right? And my go to and play plain flash is here. So let's just go to the next step. You can see all the, I have access to all of my variables here. I know what my X and Y coordinates are for P1 and P2. All the regular debugging techniques we can do with Visual Studio, the proper Visual Studio, I can do pretty much in here, right? So I know it gets here. I know it does get here, and we do this alpha is equal to 1. I know I also do this. Let me just go to the next. I'll kind of jump over that part. I'll go to here. So it did do this, right? And it did play this, my plain flash, right? That's what it's supposed to have done. So if I go back to the scene, we should see the plane kind of grayed out. Now notice it says pause in Visual Studio Code, right? Because what's happened is it hasn't gone back. So if I kind of refresh, and it's going to go back to the collision check for each cloud. That's what it's checking, right? For each cloud, it's going to pause this thing to see where we are. Now I could always continue playing, right? If I click this, it'll just continue. It does work. See that? It did work. It kind of did flash. It did flash. In debug mode, it flashed. Did you see that? That was weird, right? Came back, and I tacked again. Look, I am flashing here, right? And if I press play, I'm paused in debug mode. That's what's happened here. If I go to the next one and play the flash again, okay, back to here, and you can see that I want to play again. Like I want to continue playing. I can just press play or just continue like normal. And then you can see that it does play this. Look, it does flash. But it flashed a bunch of times. I'm supposed to go 27, 26, 27, 26. It's supposed to go. Yeah. And it didn't quite do that. Something's weird, right? Which one? Okay. So I made a mistake. All right, let's stop debugging. Let's stop debugging. So then when I do this, you can see that this is my debug screen, right? I'm going to click this one. And I'm going to go back to, I can leave this debug point in. It's not going to stop my game, only when in debug mode, which is kind of cool. So that means if I go back up to here, right? And if I go to game.ts and go through this, here's my plain flash. 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So this looks like it's right. And it goes 26, 27, 26, 27, 26, 27. That's like 3 flashes. It'll play this thing, right? Plain flash is mentioned properly. And then it'll do it for 0.08, so really slow. Okay, that's what it'll do. And then it'll go back to the restart button. It'll play that. So to check this, let's use 28, 28, 28, 28. Yeah, sure. So if I do this, 28, 28, 28, 28, so it's only going to play the restart button. Whenever it hits, we're going to see like this really ugly restart button come into play. Okay? Let's see how that looks. 28, 28, 28, 28, and it's 0.08. So how would that look? So if I did it and I started, well, that's a problem. My restart button is the one that's flying now. Take a look. That's not right. That's supposed to be the flash, right? Looks like something's wrong. That's what it looks like. 23, 24, 25. Well, the way we can figure this out is if I go back to my texture packer, and I can take a look at my plane, right? Here's my plane 1, plane 2, plane 3, and here's my plane flash, right? So plane flash should look like this, right? So if I press the animation preview, that's too fast. I want really slow. That's what I want, something like that. So what I'm going to do is republish. So first of all, save everything and then republish my stuff, right? So it says output files are newer than the input files, nothing to do. So what I'm going to do is get rid of it. So I'm going to go back to assets. I'm going to go to sprites. I'm going to go to this and just delete it. And then output it again. There, perfect. Now what I have is I can go and check what I did last time, which is in here, and make sure that my stuff is the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just dual screen it here. And on this side, it'll be this. And on that side, it'll be my game.ts. There it is. And you can see that looking pretty good for the frames. And my other professor is waiting. We have to go. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 for enemy, 12, 13, and 14 for the enemy, 12, 13, and 14. Explosion 15 to 21. Explosion 15 to 21. Island 22, right? Plane 23, 24, 25. Plane flash 26, 27. And this is where I did the exact, I was right. But that's not it. 26, 27 is the exact same thing. 26, 27. Kind of what I had before, 26, 27, 26, 27. And I did that a bunch of times. So I went back and forth between those things. And that is that frame. Now, just to check to see if these are off somehow, maybe I did a bad copy paste. I'm just going to grab this again, go all the way down to the bottom. I don't think so. I think it's something else. And it's a bug that appeared after we did all the other work that we did, right? So you don't know what the problem is. Maybe I double copied, you never know, right? But that's what caused the bug. I mean, that there's something that happened between now and before, and we don't know what that is. But if I go back to this, and if I play, if I die, I don't disappear. I'm the same as I ever was. So something's going on here where it used to work, but it's not working. I'm not going to handle that now. We're out of time. But next week, we're going to handle this. And like I said earlier, I want to do some particles, something else to make it a little better. Okay, so thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your Easter weekend. Remember that next week, you have your next build that's due. All right? It's not this week, but next week is your, I believe is your beta. Let's do next week. So that should be three different screens, your start screen, your 3 levels, and your end screen we do next week. Okay, so hopefully I'm going to look at that next week. And then we'll also do a bit of a peer review. Okay, that's it for me. Signing off. See you next week.